What if I told you the US government has absolutely no intention of ever paying back its $38 trillion in debt? Not a single cent. In fact, what if I told you they have a secret, quiet plan to make it all simply disappear? And they're not going to use tax hikes or budget cuts. They're going to use two tools you'd never expect: thousands of tons of ancient, useless gold and the digital, dangerous code of cryptocurrency. This is the story of how the US is pulling off the biggest financial magic trick in history. They're quietly erasing the single largest debt in the world, all while you're distracted by TikTok trends, sports, and which politician said what stupid thing this week. This is how they're doing it. How the US is quietly erasing 38T in debt with gold and crypto, while you're distracted. 1. The $38 trillion lie and why it's mathematically impossible to pay. Look at this number. It's insane. $15 trillion, as that's the official US national debt as of right now. It's a number so big our brains can't even process it. Let's try. If you spent $1 million every single day since the day Jesus was born, you still wouldn't have spent $1 trillion. You'd have to do that 38 more times. It breaks down to about $114,000 for every single person in this country. Do you have an extra $114,000 lying around? No? How about your newborn baby? Because they're on the hook too. But here's the really terrifying part, the part no one on TV wants to talk about. It's not the debt itself, it's the interest. Just like your credit card, this debt has an interest payment, and that interest just crossed $1 trillion a year. For the first time in history, the United States is spending more on the interest for its debt than it spends on its entire national defense budget. Think about that. We spend more on just servicing our past borrowing than on the entire military, all the soldiers, all the aircraft carriers, all of it. This is what bankers call a doom loop. Imagine you have a $50,000 credit card bill and your minimum payment is $2,000 a month. But here's the kicker, your total monthly income is only $1,900. So, to make your $2,000 minimum payment, you're forced to take out a new cash advance. You borrow $100 just to stay current, plus you borrow another $500 for groceries. The next month, your bill is even bigger, and your income hasn't changed. That is exactly what the US government is doing. They are borrowing new money just to pay the interest on the old money. It is a financial black hole. Now, politicians from both parties love to get on TV and look very serious. They'll say, we need to get our fiscal house in order, or we need to balance the budget. It's a performance. It's political theatre. They know this debt can never ever be paid back. Not in today's dollars. It is a mathematical impossibility. The US debt to GDP ratio, that's the total debt compared to the entire country's annual economic output, is over 122%. We owe more than we make. And let's be clear, this isn't a new problem, and it's not one party's fault. It's been a team effort. We financed 2 wars in the 2000s on the credit card. We bailed out the entire banking system in 2008. And then in 2020, we fired the money bazooka to handle the pandemic. Every single one of these events was like throwing gasoline on a house fire. So, when a politician tells you they're going to pay down the debt, they are lying to you. Or they're an idiot, or both, probably both. So, what do? If you're the government, you have 3 options when you're this deep in the hole. You can officially default. Just say, you know all those bonds, all those people who lent us money like Japan, China, and our own pension funds? Yeah, we're not paying you back. Good luck. This is financial suicide. The dollar instantly becomes worthless. The global economy implodes, and you get 10-star Grand Theft Auto anarchy in the streets. So, that's out. You can austerity your way out. This is the eat your vegetables option. You'd have to cut everything. No more Social Security, no more Medicare, no more military, and you'd have to raise taxes by 50-60% on everyone. This is political suicide. The politicians who voted for this would be swinging from lampposts by sundown. So, that's out. Or, you choose option 3, the secret option, the one no one talks about, the one every bankrupt empire in history has used. You don't default on the number, you default on the value. You make the $38 trillion as worthless. And you do it so slowly, so quietly, that most people don't even notice until it's too late. 2. The Great Devaluation, how to steal your savings legally. Hey buddy, you're not feeling so good, are you? You don't buy what you used to. $100 used to be a good night out. Now it's a bag of groceries and gas. Let's get one thing straight. The inflation you've been feeling for the past few years, it's not an accident. It's not just supply chains. It's not Putin's price hike or greedy corporations. Those are symptoms. The disease is policy. The inflation is the plan. The technical term for it is financial repression. It sounds boring. It's not. It's the single biggest perfectly legal wealth transfer in human history. And it's happening to you right now. Here's how it works, in 2 simple steps. Step 1. The government, through its partners at the Federal Reserve, prints trillions of new dollars to pay for all its programs, wars, and bailouts. This, as we all know, floods the market with cash and makes all the other dollars in existence worth less. Your savings account is now a melting ice cube. Step 2, and this is the genius evil part. The Fed simultaneously keeps interest rates below the real rate of inflation. Think about it. You, being a good, responsible citizen, put your money in a savings account. The bank gives you, say, 1% interest. But the real inflation rate, the cost of your food, your rent, your gas, is actually 5%. Congratulations, you just lost 4% of your purchasing power this year, and you didn't even do anything. You thought you were saving money, but you were actually losing it. Where did that 4% of value go? It was legally stolen from you. It was transferred to the biggest debtor in the world, the US government, because their debt just got 4% cheaper in real terms. This isn't a theory, this is history. Ask your grandparents. This is exactly what the US did after World War II. In 1946, US debt was over 110% of GDP, even worse than today. We had just financed a global war, so what did we do? We didn't pay it back. We repressed it. The Fed capped interest rates low and let inflation run hot, averaging 4 to 5% for decades. The result? The real value of that WS's debt just melted away. It was a slow-motion, 20-year-long default that nobody ever called a default. People who held bonds, who were patriotic and lent money to the government, they got screwed. Their bonds were paid back in dollars that were worth a fraction of what they originally lent. And guess what? It's happening again. It's the only way out. They need inflation. They want inflation. They'll get on TV and say they're fighting inflation, but they're not. They're just managing it. They want it hot, but not too hot. They want a controlled demolition of the dollar, not a full-on collapse. But this plan, this Great Devaluation, has a massive fatal flaw. What happens when people wake up? What happens when you and me and everyone else sees that our savings accounts are a scam? That the dollar is a melting ice cube? What do people do? They run for the exits. They dump their dollars and buy anything else. They buy stocks. They buy houses. They buy things that are real. And when that happens, you get hyperinflation. The controlled demolition turns into an uncontrolled collapse. The government loses control. So to pull this off, you need an anchor. You need a plan B. You need something to restore faith in the system after you finish burning the old one down. You need something the government holds that is universally trusted and that can't be printed into oblivion. And deep in a vault in Kentucky, the US has 8,933 tons of it. And if you think this is wild, do me a favour. If your brain is already spinning, hit that like button. It's the only inflation I do support. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel, because we're just getting to the real plan. 3. What is this? To you and me, it's shiny, it's heavy, it's expensive. But to the people in charge, this is a barbarous relic. That was the famous line from economist John Maynard Keynes. He argued that gold was a useless, outdated rock from a bygone era. And the US government agrees, publicly at least. The Treasury, the Federal Reserve, they never talk about gold. It's not part of their monetary policy. They'll talk about interest rates, inflation targets, quantitative easing. But gold? That's for conspiracy theorists and tinfoil hats, right? Then, you have to ask one simple question. If it's a useless, barbarous relic, why does the United States government hold 8,133.5 metric tons of it? Let me put that in perspective. That is the largest official gold reserve in the world. It's more than Germany, Italy, and France combined. The vast majority of it, over 4,500 tons, is supposedly held in the United States Bullion Depository. You know it as Fort Knox. Fort Knox is one of the most secure buildings on the planet. It has a 22-ton vault door, it's surrounded by the US Army, and its granite walls are 4 feet thick. But here's the fun part. You know when the last real audit of that gold was? 1953. No, that's not a typo. There hasn't been a full independent audit of the US gold reserves in over 70 years. Sure, in 1974, they let a few congressmen and journalists in to look at it. They opened one room, showed them some shiny bricks and said, "See, it's all here, now get out." In 2017, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin did a photo op there, held up a gold bar and said, "The gold is safe." I feel so much better. Thanks, Steve. Why? Why no audit? Why hoard so much of something you publicly call useless? Because it's not useless. It's the fire extinguisher. It's the in case of emergency break glass plan. It's the ultimate anchor in a storm. And right now we're sailing directly into the storm we just talked about, the Great Devaluation. As the government intentionally inflates away the $38 trillion debt, they know the public will eventually lose faith in the dollar. When that happens, when the controlled demolition threatens to become an uncontrolled hyperinflationary collapse, they need a plan B. They need something to restore faith. And that plan is called the Great Revaluation. This is where your mind is going to explode. Right now, on the US Treasury's official balance sheet, they value their 8,133.5 tons of gold at $40.22 an ounce, $42.22. That's not a joke. That is the official book value. It's an old, dead accounting number from the 1970s. The market price of gold right now is around $2,300 an ounce. So let's do some quick, dirty math. The total US gold hoard is about 261.5 million troy ounces. At the official price of $42.22, the entire US gold reserve is worth $11 billion chump change. It wouldn't even pay the interest on the debt for a week. At the market price of $2,300, it's worth about $61 billion. Better. But still not enough to make a dent in $38 trillion. But you're missing the point. The plan is not to sell the gold at the market price. The plan is to reset the entire system and create a new price. This has happened before. In 1933, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102. This order made it illegal for any American citizen to own gold. You were forced, under penalty of 10 years in prison, to turn in all your gold coins and bullion to the government. They paid you $20.67 per ounce in paper dollars. Then, after the government had collected all the gold, FDR signed the Gold Reserve Act of 1934, and with the stroke of a pen, he repriced gold to $30 an ounce. In one day, he devalued the US dollar by nearly 60%. He stole 60% of the savings of anyone holding paper money and transferred that wealth directly to the government's balance sheet. It was the biggest heist in American history, and it was 100% legal. Now, imagine they do it again. Imagine the crisis hits, the debt market is collapsing, inflation is at 20%. Nobody wants the dollar. The president goes on TV. My fellow Americans, our financial system is in crisis. To restore faith and stability, I am today signing an executive order to back the United States dollar with our gold reserves. We must have sound money, and to reflect the true value of our nation's assets, the official price of gold will be set at $50,000 per ounce. Sounds insane, right? Let's do the math on that. 261.5 million ounces of gold times a new price of $50,000 an ounce. What does that equal? 13.75 trillion dollars. Just like that. With the stroke of a pen, the US Treasury invents 13 trillion in new assets. It didn't have to tax anyone. It didn't have to do anything. It just changed a number in a ledger. That $13 trillion can be used to wipe out the debt held by the Fed. It can be used to back a new digital dollar, which we'll get to. It instantly makes the US balance sheet look solvent again, and everyone who was smart and held their money in paper dollars, they get wiped out again. Their purchasing power is vaporized overnight. But everyone who held gold, they're protected. Now you know why the government doesn't care about the market price of gold. They're not a trader, they're the casino. They own the house, and they can change the value of the chips whenever they want. And if you think this is a crazy paranoid theory, look at what other countries are doing. For the last 2 years, central banks around the world, China, Russia, India, Turkey, Poland, have been buying gold at the fastest pace in human history. They are on an unprecedented buying spree. Why? Because they're not stupid. They're reading the same balance sheet we are. They know the US is going to devalue the dollar to escape its $38 trillion debt. They know the dollar's time, as the only global reserve currency, is over. And they know that when the system finally resets, The countries with the most gold get to sit at the head of the table. The US is hoarding its gold as the ultimate reset button. It's the ace up their sleeve. But it's not the only ace, because in the last 15 years, a new digital relic has shown up. And it's the one thing they can't control. Or can they? For the last 5 years, if you listen to the US government, cryptocurrency was public enemy number one. It was a Wild West, a tool for criminals, a highly speculative asset, a threat to financial stability. They hated it, and they weren't just talking, they were acting. They unleashed a full-blown, coordinated behind-the-scenes war on the entire crypto industry. It was a shadow war, and it had a name, FOR, the 180 from enemy to strategic reserve. You've heard of the SEC lawsuits. Gary Gensler, who was the head of the SEC until early 2025, was on a mission. He was suing everyone: Coinbase, Binance, Ripple. It was a regulation by enforcement rampage. His message was simple: come in and register, while simultaneously making it impossible to register. It was like a jealous ex blocking you on all social media and then getting mad you didn't text them happy birthday. But the real war, the really dark, edgy stuff, wasn't happening on TV. It was happening in quiet bank boardrooms. It was called Operation Choke Point 2.0. This was a completely denied but totally real campaign by the prudential regulators, the Fed, the FDIC, the OCC, to debank the entire crypto ecosystem. It worked like this. A bank regulator would visit a bank that had crypto-friendly customers. No one slams a fist on the table. It's all very polite. They just say, that's a risky line of business you're in. Banking all those crypto companies, that's a reputational risk. We're going to have to subject you to much, much more scrutiny. Audits, stress tests, it's a real shame. Unless, of course, you just, choke them off. And just like that, banks all across the country started cutting ties. They shut down accounts for crypto exchanges, for developers, for anyone who even smelled like Bitcoin. Signature Bank, Silvergate, all crypto-friendly banks mysteriously imploded. Why? Why this coordinated war? Were they really just trying to protect investors? Host? No. They were trying to kill the competition. You don't try to kill a useless fad, you try to kill a threat. And decentralized crypto like Bitcoin, it's the ultimate threat to their Great Devaluation plan. Remember part 2? The plan needs inflation to work. It needs the dollar to be a melting ice cube. But that plan fails if you, the public, have a lifeboat. In the 20th century, the only lifeboat was gold, and in 1933 they seized it. In the 21st century, the lifeboat is digital. It's Bitcoin. It's an asset with no borders, no CEO, and no government that can print more of it. How can the Fed inflate away the debt if anyone can just press a button, exit the dollar, and move their savings into an asset they can't seize? They can't. So, the old administration's plan was clear. Step 1. Choke off the real decentralized crypto. Kill the lifeboat. Step 2. Introduce their own crypto. A central bank digital currency, or CBDC. We'll get to that digital nightmare in a minute. This was the plan. It was working. The industry was on the ropes. And then January 2025 happened. A new administration comes in, and in the span of about 90 days, the entire US policy on crypto doesn't just change, it does a violent 180-degree flip. Check this out. January 20th, 2025. SEC Chair, Gary Gensler, resigns. The war is over, January 23rd, 2025. The new president signs Executive Order 178. This order does something unthinkable. It prohibits the federal government from developing a CBDC. The digital prison is banned. April 2025. The Department of Justice disbands its National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team. August 2025. The Federal Reserve quietly sunsets its Novel Activities Supervision Program. This is the official name for the engine that ran Operation Choke Point 2.0. They just turned it off. It was a total systemic surrender. Or was it an entirely new plan? Because then, in March 2025, the White House made the real announcement, the one that ties this all together. They announced the creation of the US Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. You heard me. The United States, which for a decade had called Bitcoin a criminal tool, officially recognized it as a reserve asset, right alongside its gold. The same S&P global analysts who call gold a relic called this move Mainly symbolic. Symbolic? They're not paying attention. The US is the largest known state holder of Bitcoin in the world. Where did they get it? They didn't even have to buy it. They're the world's biggest hodler because they seized it. For years, the DOJ has been seizing Bitcoin from criminal enterprises. They seized 69,370 BTC from the Silk Road wallet. They seized 94,640 BTC from the Bitfinex hack. Just last month, in October 2025, they seized a record-breaking 127,271 BTC from a Chinese national named Chen Ji. All told, the US government is sitting on a known stash of at least 325,000 Bitcoin. At today's prices, that's a lot. But just like the gold, they don't care about today's price, they're not selling it. The executive order made it clear this Bitcoin will be held in reserve. This is the new plan. It's brilliant. It's the Gold Reserve Act of 1934, but for the digital age. Phase 1, under the old admin, let the courts, grayscale case, force the SEC's hand to approve the spot Bitcoin ETFs in 2024. This was the co-opt phase. It brings Bitcoin inside the Wall Street system. Phase 2. This is the genius part. You, the average citizen, are encouraged to get exposure to Bitcoin. But how? Through the nice, safe, regulated BlackRock iShares ETF, EBIT, in your 401k. Phase 3. Meanwhile, they, the government, hold the real asset. The 325,000 plea actual coins. It's the same magic trick. They let you hold the paper certificate while they hold the physical bullion. They have just created a second anchor for their balance sheet. As they inflate away the $38 trillion dollar-denominated debt, the value of their 8,933 tons of gold and their 325,000 Bitcoin explodes. They're not paying the debt. They're recapitalizing the entire United States on the fly. They are letting the ocean of dollar debt drain away, while their two lifeboats, gold and Bitcoin, rise with the tide. It's the biggest balance sheet swap in history. But this brings up one terrifying question. If the new administration banned the US central bank digital currency, what was it? What was the digital prison they were so afraid of that they made it illegal on day one? Because that's the crypto that some people in power still want, and it's the one you should be really scared of. So if the new plan is to embrace gold and Bitcoin as reserve assets, what was the old plan? What was this digital prison that the new administration supposedly banned on day one? It's called a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, and if you're not scared of this, you're not paying attention. 5. The digital prison. They almost built, and why they're not done trying. Okay, let's get this straight. You hear digital currency, you think Bitcoin, right? Wrong. Bitcoin is decentralized. No one owns it. No one can print more of it. It's permissionless, meaning you don't have to ask anyone to use it. A CBDC is the exact opposite. It is the total centralized control of money. It's not a digital currency, it's a digital control grid. The old guard at the Fed, the Treasury, and their globalist buddies at the Bank for International Settlements, BIS. That's like the central bank for central banks. They lusted after this thing. They tried to sell it to you as a utopia. It's amazing, it's financial inclusion, no more bank fees. People without bank accounts can get money. We can airdrop stimulus checks instantly. Sounds great, right? Here's what they don't tell you. A CBDC is programmable money. That means the government, the issuer of the money, can set rules for how you are allowed to spend your money. Let's run an immersive scenario. Imagine it's the year 2028, and the digital dollar or Fed coin is the only money. Cash is gone. Banned as a tool for criminals. You wake up, you go to buy a coffee, you tap your phone. A message pops up. Purchase denied. You have exceeded your weekly caffeine allotment. You laugh it off. A glitch. You go to the gas station. You try to fill up your tank. Purchase denied. Your carbon footprint allowance for this month has been met. Please use public transport. Now you're getting mad. You drive home. You see a political protest you agree with, one that's against these new rules. You go to their website to donate $20. This time, the message is different. Your account has been frozen pending a review for supporting domestic extremism. Host, you can't do anything. Your money's no longer yours. It's a voucher that the government allows you to use as long as you are a good citizen. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This isn't a bad episode of Black Mirror. This is what they were building. The Federal Reserve was actively working on this. Their big experiment with MIT was called Project Hamilton. They researched how to build a digital dollar that could handle 1.7 million transactions per second. But they were shy about the control part. Their buddies at the BIS? Not so shy. In 2021, Agustin Carstens, the general manager of the BIS, said this in a speech, and I am quoting him directly. "We don't know who's using a $100 bill today. The key difference with the CBDC is the central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use, and also we will have the technology to enforce that. Absolute control. Enforce." He said the quiet part out loud. This is the ultimate tool for financial repression. Remember that doom loop from part 1? Remember how they need to inflate away the debt. In a cash-based world, if the Fed tries to set interest rates at, say, 2%, negative interest rates, to force you to spend, you can just pull your cash out of the bank. You can put it under your mattress, you can escape. In a CBDC-only world, there is no mattress, there is no cash, there is no escape. They hit a button, and your FedCoin wallet, which you thought had $10,000 in it, now has $9,800. They force you to spend, or you will be poor. They can set expiration dates. Here's your $200 stimulus check. Spend it by March 15th, or it disappears. This allows them to micromanage the hell out of the economy and out of your life. And if you want to see this in action, just look at China. China has been rolling out its CBDC, the digital yuan, ECNY, for years. Millions of people are using it. It's integrated with WeChat. It's used to pay public transport and in some cases even civil servant salaries. It also has all these features: programmable money, expiration dates, and of course, it's tied directly to the most terrifying social experiment ever created, the social credit system. In China, if you jaywalk, if you play your music too loud, if you post disinformation, your social credit score drops. And now, with the ECNY, they can directly link your bad behavior to your bank account. Low score, you can't buy a plane ticket. Low score, you can't get a loan. Low score, maybe your interest rates are worse than your neighbors. This was the utopia they were building. This was the old plan. When the new, hypothetical administration came in and banned the CBDC in January 2025, it was a massive signal. It was a rejection of the total control model. But this is where you have to stop and think. If this is so powerful, why would they give it up? Is the idea really dead? Or are they just letting the new plan, the gold and Bitcoin reset, play out first? Because once the old system is rubble, they know you'll be begging for a new stable one, and they'll have FedCoin 2.0 waiting in the wings, just in case of emergency. Hey, I know this is a lot. It's dark. It's probably making you want to go buy a can of beans and a shotgun. If this is giving you value and making you think, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. We need to get this information out there. Because the next part is the how-to. This is how they're pulling all three of these levers, inflation, gold, and crypto at the exact same time, and how they're using you to do it. Alright, so let's review. You've got the government in a $38 trillion hole. You've got Plan A, the Great Devaluation. Inflate the dollar to death, melt the debt away. You've got Plan B, the Great Revaluation. Reprice your massive hoards of gold and Bitcoin to make your balance sheet look good after you've destroyed the dollar. It looks like 3 different plans, but it's not. It's one single, beautiful, diabolical machine. And the best part, you are the fuel. 6. The Grand Unified Theory. How inflation powers the reset. How do you pull this off? How do you run all 3 plays at once? You do it by understanding basic human psychology. Panic. The entire plan is a push and a pull. The push is the inflation. This is the cattle prod. This is the stick. The pull is the safe assets. This is the open gate. This is the carrot. Think about it. The government needs the value of its gold and Bitcoin reserves to go up. But how do you make an asset's price go up? You need people to buy it. But the government can't just go on TV and say, hey everyone, please go buy Bitcoin so our strategic reserve gets more valuable. That's a little too obvious. No, you have to make them do it, while letting them think it was their idea. So you crank up the Great Devaluation. You let inflation run hot. You print trillions of dollars. You let the price of groceries go up 10%. You let gas prices creep up. You let housing become so unaffordable that people just give up. You make holding cash painful. You make sitting on a savings account feel like you're that guy in Indiana Jones who chose the wrong grail and just ages to death in 10 seconds. So what does the smart citizen do? What do you do when you realize your money is melting? You panic and you run for the exits. You desperately search for a lifeboat. Anything that isn't the dollar. And what's standing right there by the exit with a nice new, shiny, Wall Street approved sign on it? Your friendly neighborhood exchange-traded fund, ETF. You're not buying dangerous Bitcoin from some shady offshore exchange. Oh no, you're a sophisticated investor. You're buying the BlackRock iShares Bitcoin Trust, IBIT, right inside your safe 401k. You're not hauling barbarous gold bars into your basement. You're buying the SPDR Gold Shares, GLD, and you feel smart. You're hedging against inflation. You're diversifying. But what are you really doing? You're literally doing the government's work for them. You, and millions of other panicked savers, are taking your devaluing dollars and piling billions into these new ETF products. The Bitcoin ETFs that launched in 2024, they sucked in tens of billions of dollars in their first year. In October 2025 alone, 1 month, the iShares Bitcoin ETF saw $4 billion in new inflows. Overall ETF inflows for the first 10 months of 2025, a record-breaking 114 trillion. You are the demand. You are the exit, liquidity. You are the engine that is driving up the price of the very assets the government is hoarding. It's the most brilliant magic trick ever pulled. The government prints $1 trillion in new stimulus money. This is step 1, devaluation. That $1 trillion floods the system, causing inflation. Your $10,000 in savings is now worth $9,000 in real terms. You panic. You take your at-risk $10,000 and invest it in a gold ETF and a Bitcoin ETF. Your $10,000, combined with everyone else's, drives up the market price of gold and Bitcoin. And whose balance sheet just got a massive tax-free pump? The US Treasury, which is sitting on 8,033 tons of gold and 325,000 Bitcoin. They're not just erasing the debt. They're using financial repression, the inflation, to force you to power their financial revaluation. They're stealing from your left pocket with inflation, while you willingly hand them money from your right pocket to protect yourself from the very theft they started. It's a closed loop. It's a self-feeding dragon. And if you still don't believe me, look at the other casinos. This isn't just a US plan. This is the Great Game. The rest of the world is not stupid. They know the dollar's time is up. They know the US has to devalue its debt. So what are they doing? They're running the exact same play. For the last 3 years in a row, 2022, 2023, and 2024, global central banks have bought over 1,000 metric tons of gold each year. This is unprecedented. It's a structural shift in the market. China is on a buying spree. They're dumping US Treasury bonds and quietly stacking gold. Their official numbers are huge, but experts like Jeff Curry at Carlyle say their real purchases could be 10 times what they're reporting. They're in a de-dollarization war. Poland. Their central bank has been buying gold like it's going out of style, increasing their reserves by over 68% in the last few years. India, Turkey, Singapore, everyone is dumping dollars and buying the relic. They're all preparing for the exact same moment. The moment the Great Devaluation goes critical, and the system resets. They all know the truth. When the music stops, the only thing that matters is who is left holding the real assets. The US is just making sure that when that day comes, they still have the biggest stack of chips. But what does this new world actually look like? What happens to you, to your job, your mortgage, your life, the day after the reset? Because Plan A and Plan B are just the setup. It's Plan C, the endgame, that should really keep you up at night. And so to ensure the full faith and credit of the United States, we are taking this bold, necessary step. All banks and financial markets will remain closed for a 72-hour systemic readjustment period. When they reopen on Monday, we will enter a new era of American prosperity. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Systemic readjustment. That's what they'd call it. Not default, not the great heist. This is the end game. This is Plan C. This is what happens the day after they pull the plug. 7. The new dollar, life after the reset. So, you're sitting at home, the internet is spotty, the banks are closed, the news anchors are just reading the same script over and over. For 3 days the world holds its breath. Then, Monday morning comes, you wake up, and you get a push notification on your phone. It's not from your bank. It's from the Fed Wallet app that was part of a mandatory security update everyone had to download last month. You open it. You look at your old bank balance. You had $100,000 in your savings. You worked hard for that. You saved. You were responsible. Now, you look at your new Fed Wallet. Your balance is $10,000. You just got zapped. You were part of the Great Conversion. This isn't a theory. This is the standard historical playbook for ending a hyperinflationary debt spiral. Look at Germany in 1923. They were so deep in debt from World War I that they were printing trillions of papier marks. People were taking wheelbarrows full of cash to buy a loaf of bread. So what did they do? They announced a new currency, the Rentenmark, and they announced a conversion rate. They converted 1 trillion old, worthless papier marks for one new Rentenmark, just like that. Poof, 12 zeros, gone. They hit the reset button on the whole economy, and in doing so, they wiped out the entire class of people who had been responsible and saved their money. Their life savings were gone, vaporized, and that is exactly what the Great Conversion will be. The government will announce a 10-to-1 conversion, or 20-to-1, or 100-to-1, whatever number they need to make their books look good. All your old dollars are gone, replaced by new dollars. Now, their propaganda machine will be working overtime. Don't worry, it's all relative. Sure, you have 10 times less money, but prices will be 10 times lower. Your $5 loaf of bread will now cost 50 new cents. Your $40,000 car will cost $4,000 new dollars. See, it's all the same. Is it? Is it really all the same? Let's look at who really wins and who really loses in this readjustment. The losers. Your grandma. She lives on a $3,000 a month fixed pension from her old job. Does that get converted? Does her old company have the money to reprice her pension? Or is her $3,000 old dollar check now just worth $300, new dollars? Sorry, Grandma. Enjoy the cat food. The responsible saver. You, with your $100,000 in savings. You lost 90% of your wealth overnight. Why? Because you trusted the system. You held your money in their currency. The world. What about China and Japan? They've spent the last 30 years buying our debt. They hold trillions of US Treasury bonds. Well, guess what? Those bonds are all denominated in old dollars. The US just paid back its $38 trillion debt, with the equivalent of $3.8 trillion new dollars. It is the single biggest FU in geopolitical history. It's a default by another name. The debt is gone. The winners, the government. Oh boy, do they win. Their $38 trillion debt is now a tiny, manageable $3.8 trillion, but remember their 8,133 tons of gold and their 325,000 Bitcoin? Those weren't denominated in old dollars. Those are real assets. And in the announcement, the president said they were revalued. That gold, which was on the books at $42 an ounce, is now on the books at $50,000 new dollars an ounce. Their balance sheet is pristine. They just made themselves the richest entity on earth, the irresponsible debtor. Remember your idiot neighbor who bought that $1 million house he couldn't afford on an interest-only loan? His $1,000 old dollar mortgage is now a $100,000 new dollar mortgage. He just got 90% of his debt erased. He pays it off with his first paycheck. He won. He was irresponsible, and he won. The conspiracy theorist. That weird guy at work everyone made fun of. The one who was obsessed with gold. The one who kept telling you to buy Bitcoin. It's the lifeboat. He didn't have a savings account. He held real assets outside the system. His one gold coin is now worth $50,000, new dollars. His one Bitcoin is worth, who even knows? He's the new 1%. This is the greatest wealth transfer in human history. It's a rug pull on everyone who followed the rules. But here's the final, chef's kiss of the whole plan. This new dollar, this Fed Wallet app, it's the CBDC. It's the digital prison from Part 5. They banned the old admin CBDC, so they could introduce their own. They had to burn the old system down first. They knew you would never ever willingly accept a programmable control grid like a CBDC unless you were desperate. And after 3 days of no banks, no money, and near anarchy, you won't just accept the new dollar. You will be on your knees begging for it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Government, for giving me my new, safe, secure Fed wallet. Thank you for restoring order. And just like that, they have you. They will back this new dollar with their newly valued gold and Bitcoin. It's sound money, they'll cry. It's backed by real assets, not like that old inflationary fiat. They'll say this to get you to trust it, to use it. But the backing is a Trojan horse. The real feature is the control. And now that all money is in their system, the control is absolute. They erased the debt. They revalued their assets. And in the chaos, they transferred the entire population onto a digital leash. Game, set, match. So that's it. That's the plan. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is just history and math. Empires that get this deep in debt always do this. They always default. The only question is how. The US has just found the most 21st century way to do it. It's the most sophisticated, high-tech financial rug pull ever conceived. Let's recap the whole thing just so it's crystal clear. The problem. The US has $38 trillion in debt it can never pay back with real money. The push. They're intentionally devaluing the dollar with inflation. This is the Great Devaluation. This is the cattle prod to your back, making you flee from holding cash. The pull. They've created safe exits for you. Gold and Bitcoin ETFs. This is the open gate you're supposed to run to. The magic trick. By pushing you into these assets, you personally drive up the price of the 8,100 tons of gold and the 325,000 Bitcoin that the government is already hoarding. The endgame. When the old system finally breaks, they will perform a great conversion. They'll swap your worthless old dollars for their new dollar, a CBDC, a digital prison. And they'll use their newly valued gold and Bitcoin reserves to back it, convincing you it's safe. They are erasing their debt, capitalizing their balance sheet, and seizing total control, all in one move, and they're using you to do it. 8. The final takeaway, and how not to get zapped. So, what's the moral of the story? What are you supposed to do? First, I am not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy on the internet with a camera and a history book. I am not telling you to go buy anything, but I am telling you to think. I'm telling you to stop trusting what they say and start watching what they do. They say gold is a barbarous relic. They do hoard 8,100 tons of it. They said Bitcoin was for criminals. They do hold 325,000 of them in a strategic reserve. The warning here isn't to be paranoid, it's to be prepared. It's to understand the game you're being forced to play. The biggest takeaway is this. You need to understand the difference between currency and money. What you have in your bank account is currency. It's a promise. And as we've seen, that promise is being broken. Real money is an asset. It's something that can't be printed into oblivion. For 5,000 years, that was gold. Now, a new digital version has shown up. This isn't about getting rich. This is about not getting poor. It's about protecting your work, your time, your energy. And please, stop letting them distract you. This entire, massive, $38 trillion heist is being pulled off while you, me, and everyone else is screaming at each other about politics. The left and the right. It's a puppet show. It's a distraction. They need you to be angry at your neighbour, so you don't look up and see the people in the penthouse robbing the entire building. It doesn't matter who is in. The White House? The doom loop is here. The math is set. The plan is in motion. All you can do is educate yourself. You can learn about this system. You can decide for yourself how you want to store the value of your life's work, because they've told you their plan. You just have to be willing to listen. Hey, that was heavy. I know. If your mind is blown and you want to go deeper down this rabbit hole, you're in the right place. We've got a whole playlist on our channel. And if you want to understand the history of this and other relevant ones, check out our other videos. They are all right there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for thinking. If you have your own ideas, if you think I'm right, or if you think I'm completely insane, let me know in the comments below. This is a conversation. And if you're new here and you made it this far, you're one of us. Hit subscribe, hit the bell. Don't miss what's coming. Stay safe, stay smart, and don't get zapped.